honors that Allison has for her work. I'm interested in what she's going to say about what she's learned here in Sacramento. Office politics.
Hello everyone, my name is Allison Wang. I recently graduated from UCR this past June, so this is my first post-grad summer. I have been interested in transportation. I interned with the California State Transportation Agency this past summer and CalSTA, and I've been interested in transportation ever since sophomore year at UCR. I mean, everyone who lived in Riverside knows you can't go anywhere without a car in Riverside, and I think experiencing that and having to drive on our highways made me very interested in why that was. Why are the highways like this? Why are they kind of so bad? And I talked to Professor Loveridge multiple times about, I'm interested in transportation. I wrote a paper in one of his classes about downtown Riverside's transportation. And then when I got accepted into this fellowship, he said, send me your resume, I will get you an internship with CalSTA. And I was like, great. And then he pulled his connections, and here I am. So thank you, Professor Loveridge, for that. So what I've learned about myself this summer, well, for one, I think I've learned that it takes a lot of time and effort to kind of figure everything out. And I'm kind of still in the process of figuring things out a little bit. I've had my experience doing research. I did a little bit of journalism with KBCR back in San Bernardino. I've worked in federal government in UCDC. I've done state government here. I worked with the City of Lake Elsinore City Manager's Office. Having this wide breadth of experience has made me realize that I think I just have to try everything before I figure it out. And I think I am still figuring it out. But this past summer, I went on 25 coffee chats. I have a spreadsheet at the office that listed everyone out. But getting to talk to so many different people, seeing their experiences, it made me realize how valuable that was. And in my past internships, I didn't really get a chance to do that. So I feel like this summer, I really put myself out there. And being able to recognize so many faces in the room made me realize how much it paid off. Seeing everyone that I had a coffee chat with, which is great. So that experience has just been really great. And I even organized a tour for my fellows of CalSTA. And where Secretary Omoshakin was able to give remarks, inspire us all, answer some questions. And having the fellowship together in that way was really important to me. And I think I just learned to put myself out there. So a little bit of a basic answer, but there we are. Okay, what I learned about CalSTA. So first of all, CalSTA, I learned that it is not Caltrans. Every person, I told my mom I was working for the State Transportation Agency, and everyone just thinks it's Caltrans because that's the logo that's plastered everywhere in the state. But I think that because it's such a high-level, state-level executive agency, that comes with a lot of responsibility. It is the umbrella agency for 8 different departments, and CHP, EMB, UL. Just a lot of responsibility, and it kind of with that comes a very high-level type of work. For example, the biggest project that I worked on was the ZEO, and I'll briefly explain it. Basically, Governor Newsom issued an executive order to get a bunch of agencies to come together, write up a report on how to advance ZEV adoption, or zero emission vehicle adoption, in California. I played a bit of a supporting role in doing that, gathering all of CalSTA's policy ideas and helping wrangle up everyone into meetings and taking notes and throwing it all together into a spreadsheet, a massive spreadsheet that eventually would get fed up into CARB, who was kind of spearheading that effort. That was the biggest kind of project that I worked on this summer. Just shows how vast state government is, and even within CalSTA itself, with those 8 departments, there's so many people working on this one project, and the amount of responsibility that it holds. Other highlights in CalSTA, I went to July's Board of Pilot Commissioners meeting in San Francisco. Very interesting to see another one of CalSTA's department doing their work and such. And this Thursday, we're going to the bar pilots. They're giving us a tour of their offices, and maybe a little bit of a boat tour down there as well. But lots of stuff with CalSTA, and I had a great summer. And thank you to Kristen Casey and Jaden Greenfield over there for coming and supporting me. And also being great mentors this entire summer. Okay, quick trip over to the last question, which is what I learned about California. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with my previous comments. California is a really, really big state. And every class that I have with Professor Loveridge, he always tells us California is so important because of these reasons, and one of them is because it's so big, it has a lot of geographical regions. And I feel like you don't get to experience that unless you visit all of California, which takes a lot of time. But working in state government makes you realize how big it is in that sense as well, because there's so much money that flows through CalSTA and the state departments, and just how do we manage such a big state that is basically the size of so many different countries? I mean, we're fourth economy in the world now. I think we surpassed Japan. I think that amount of power that California has is just kind of stunning, and it just makes me really proud to be a Californian, that I lived here and I was raised here, and that I get to eventually work in one of these local, state, or maybe federal government. But anyway, I just wanted to say that it's a really big place, and I'm glad to be part of it. Okay.
What are you going to do this fall?
Oh, this fall, I'm starting my Master's of Public Administration at USC. I'm actually starting next week, so that's why this is my last week here. So I'm literally moving Saturday and driving down 7 hours to get there.
How about one or two tough questions for Alice?
First off, also a Master's of Public Administration student at USC, so you're in good hands. But you mentioned you went on 25 coffee chats.
Yeah, give or
That's
take.
pretty incredible for 12 weeks. Is there one that was the most memorable, and
Oh.
why is that?
It was with Teresa Austin, and she's not here today, unfortunately. But it was initially 45-minute intended coffee chat that turned into a 3-hour brainstorming session, because we actually got together and we started writing on a list of the feedback that I gave her about this fellowship program and kind of ways to improve it and to kind of make it even better. I mean, I think we're collaborating on writing a list of suggestions and stuff. But yeah, that was really, really inspiring. I don't know. I literally it started at 11 and we didn't break until 2. We were just talking about all
I think
these
she was
different
late for a
ideas.
meeting with me. But no, I will only say that because it was memorable, because I remember her telling me about its impression on her, that she came back, she was so excited about this meeting that she had had, so.
Yeah, that was a really, really great meeting. I wish she was here today, but
Question?
Of all the people that you've gotten to talk to, or people you've been interested that you've been able to work on, what would you say is the path moving forward? I know you're getting your master's, but what are some paths that you think are interesting to look towards?
So last year, I had an 8-month internship with WRCOG, which is the Western Riverside. It was the WRCOG Public Service Fellowship, Western Riverside Council of Governments, and that was a great fellowship program. Actually, I knew about it because Professor Loveridge emailed me and he said, apply for this fellowship. And I said, will you write my letter of recommendation? And he said, yes. And then that's how it happened. But anyway, I was with the city manager's office in Lake Elsinore for that fellowship program. And that was by far, I don't know, it was so transformative. I really got to get in the weeds. And that's kind of the problem with a more shorter term fellowship. I mean, it can't be helped, but with a really long-term fellowship, you really get to get in there and see every facet of whatever office or whatever level of government you're working for. And that's what I experienced when I worked in the city manager's office in Lake Elsinore. So that's why I really feel that local government, regional government is kind of my current path forward right now. With my MPA, I am looking towards, I'm looking at the certificates, and one of them that interested me was the city management certificate.
So
Yes.
city manager potentially does.
Maybe.
One last question?
Jaden.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was wondering, now that you've had some experience working for the state, how has your perception of transportation on the local level changed?
That's a good question. So on the local level, I did work on a microtransit program in Lake Elsinore. They are trying to implement a microtransit program into their city because the current existing bus routes do not adequately service all the citizens in that area because Lake Elsinere's borders are jagged. So working on that project and getting so in the weeds and like having to research for grant funding for that project, and then coming to the state level and seeing how the money moves around, I think it kind of goes in a circle where you kind of see, okay, on the local level, these are where the funds are going into on the ground level, but at the state level, here are how the funds are dispersed and the programs that are associated with and what the goals are, either like at the state level, within the administration, whoever's dispersing it, and how it will get dispersed out. Because on the state level, I imagine once the money gets dispersed, you're not really gonna see exactly what it does until maybe a little later, and you're not really part of the decision-making process during it. So I think both sides are of course very important, but I think that's the distinction that is the difference. And I forgot your question already, I'm sorry. But I think that difference was very interesting for me to see in my experience during that transition process. Okay.